guys, it's your host, Avery Carl with the Short Term Shop. I am super excited to dive into our 10-episode mini-series on the Cascade Mountains in Washington State market. Super cool market, really cool part of the country. I want to give you guys a couple of notes first before we get started. If you guys are looking for up-to-date income numbers or data or purchase prices on properties in these markets, you can find them at theshorttermshop.com. You can set up a search to look for properties in any of the 20 markets that we operate in. You can also sign up to work with any of our short-term shop agents in any of those markets. So if you buy with us in any of those markets, we teach you everything you need to know about how to manage a short-term rental for free. And you can do that at theshorttermshop.com. Also, if you know you want to work with us already, you can email us at agents@theshorttermshop.com and we'll get you set up with one of our agents in one of our 20 markets. We have also got a Facebook group, Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth, same title as my book on Facebook. If you guys want to just join us, it's 60,000 of my closest friends talking about short-term rentals and managing them and buying them all day long. And I believe that's it. And we can go ahead and dive into the show. Make sure to give us a like, follow, 5-star review, etc. on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all at The Short Term Shop. I'll stop talking at you and let's dive in. Hey guys, welcome to episode 2 of the Short Term Show special episode series on the Cascade Mountains in Washington State. Today, we're going to be focusing on what to buy. So we focused on why in episode 1. Now we're going to focus on what. So to help us do that, we again have Doug, who you're familiar with from episode 1. Doug, just say hey real quick.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Glad to be back and talking about the Cascade Mountains.
And we also have a few investors in that market. Paul and Jenny, do you want to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about yourselves? Redundant, sorry.
Hi, my name is Jenny, and we purchased in June of 2023, and we love the place.
Yeah, aloha, Paul Mossmans. Doug and Avery and Luke have been great. We actually did their class and helped us tremendously. So far our place is doing well up there in Cle Elum, up in the Cascades, and really digging it.
Awesome. Well, and you guys live where? I feel like you need to mention this.
We live on Oahu in Hawaii. We're on the windward side of Oahu in a town called Kailua. So it's horrible.
Sounds terrible.
Can I ask them a question?
Yeah.
That is more about the last episode of why. But why Washington State? So you live in a beautiful place that's sunny all the time. So why did you want a place in Washington?
Sure.
Sometimes you get a little island fever. So we thought it'd be nice to have a place that was not here. Also, short-term rentals here are extremely restricted. But we both are familiar with Washington. I've spent time there when we were younger. We have friends up there. And so we love to do winter sports as well. So, and we love the outdoors. And so this area was all of those things. Easy to get to.
I think that was one of the criteria, was one flight.
Yeah.
Oh, really? One flight. That's very important. Where I live, we just have we have 2 airports, but they're both very small. So you're always having to transfer at least once. So I know I've got to transfer one time, but if I've got to do it twice, then I'm not buying there.
Right.
And our flight is 5.5 hours, and then it's
that's so terrible.
It's 10-hour deal. So
goodness.
It just makes it easier.
Whew, well, so let's have Doug. Doug, can you tell me the key areas that we look at to potentially buy things in this market, and then we'll hear about where the Mossmans, what area they focused on?
Yeah, sure. So there are 4. They're kind of micro markets, is how I probably describe them, and they are centered around the mountain passes that travel through the Cascade Mountains I'll go from south to north. That's the way I organize them in my brain. So there are different highways that travel across the mountains. Each of these places is near one of those highways going over the mountains. So the first one is Packwood. And Packwood is near White Pass on Highway 12 going across the Cascades. So it's closer down to, it's near Mount Rainier National Park. It is near, not too far from Mount St. Helens. It is near White Pass ski area. It is all of these markets are recreation markets and outdoor markets. But Packwood is the furthest south, and it has access both to Mount Rainier National Park and White Pass ski area, which are the primary drivers of that particular town and that particular place. And then moving just a little bit to the north, the next one is Ashford. Ashford is the main entrance to Mount Rainier National Park. It's five minutes or less into the park from Ashford. It is not really a town. It's kind of a place. It does have a post office, but that's about it. It has a gas station and a grocery store. Its primary function is to access Mount Rainier National Park. So not a lot of commercial development around there, not a lot of amenities. I mean, there's a few restaurants, there's a few little kind of places to shop, but other than that, it's more of a place to sleep and a place to hang out after you go and do whatever you do in the national park that day. So that's Ashford. Then moving north over the next mountain pass, Interstate 90 is Cle Elum, and the Cle Elum area in general, which is where Paul and Jenny purchased. And it's an hour and a half drive from downtown Seattle. All of these markets are drivable from Seattle, but it's an hour and a half from downtown Seattle. It is a change in scenery and a change in climate from Seattle. So you get over the pass, and when it's raining on the west side, it's sunny on the east side. When it's raining on the west side, it's snowing on the east side. So that change in weather and that change in scenery is very attractive from people from urban Seattle, and an easy getaway for them. And then the last one is farthest north. It's on Highway 2, and it's a series of little towns on Highway 2, Gold Bar, Index, Bering, Skykomish. And all of them are kind of just highway towns that are along Highway 2, which is the center of that is the Skykomish River, which is beautiful. And people wanting to go and to recreate on the river, be on the river, float the river, so on and so forth. So those are our four primary markets that we focus on for the short-term shop.
Okay. And Paul and Jenny, you guys bought in Cle Elum, right?
Yes.
All right. And how big of a property did you go for?
It's actually a half-acre lot. It's kind of special. And actually, I should just say that I think Jenny fell in love with it from the first time that it popped up. But it's a half-acre lot, and it's actually split by a lane that goes down the middle. There's two dwellings on the property. And one home is 1,400 square foot, 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And then the other home is a 1-bedroom, 1-bath with a very large RV garage and a smaller garage and an attached outside RV garage. That one's probably inside 800 square feet. Actually, no, I'm sorry, about 600.
So how many bedrooms are they total?
If we added them all up, it would be 3-bedroom, 3-bath.
Okay.
But that's with the two houses.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one on the river, which is literally 20 paces from the river, is 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and it's a vaulted ceiling. And then the other one is like a smaller 1-bedroom apartment, 1-bedroom, 1-bath.
So it's on the river.
It's literally on the river.
On the
Yeah.
Yakima River.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my next question is going to be, are any of those areas, can you kind of give me an idea which ones might be a little more budget friendly than other ones, which ones are really high end, so that people can kind of have a gauge of where they want to be looking based on their budget?
Yeah. So working from, again, south to north, none of the markets in this area are going to be extremely cheap. So anything that you're going to find in any of the areas is going to be at least 500,000 and up. It's really difficult to find a property under 500,000. Packwood and Ashford are going to be more reasonable. And so properties there are going to be in the 5 to 8, probably would be the highest in those areas. They're more cabin markets, smaller homes, cabins, mountain houses, I guess I would call them. but in the 5 to 8 range. So smaller properties, still not necessarily inexpensive. The same is going to go in Gold Bar. In the Gold Bar area, you're going to find most properties there in the 5 to 800 range. And then in Cle Elum, you can go anywhere probably from 500 on the low end to 5 million on the high end. So, yeah, so there's, I would say inventory in all of these places is extremely limited. So you have to know what you're looking for, and you have to know which place you want to be. And you kind of have to be like a fanatic in terms of stocking properties and offering on them when they come up. But in Cle Elum in particular, there are some properties in the 5 to 8 range, but not many. But there's much better inventory in the 1.5 million and up in a place called Suncadia, which is a resort community, a short-term rental community, and it's luxury. So 2 golf courses, a spa, a lodge, all the activities you can think of in Suncadia. And so larger properties there, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bedrooms, and asking prices to go with them.
Gotcha. And so what made you guys, Paul and Jenny, choose the area that you chose? Was it just the uniqueness of the property, or were you specifically just wanted to be in that particular area?
Well, we weren't looking specifically in Cle Elum. We were looking at different places. Gold Bar was one of the first places we looked at, which is a cute little town. And we looked at an absolutely amazing 3-story log cabin, like real log cabin. And there was some really cool history behind it. But this one on the river just sort of in Cle Elum kind of just seemed like it was a better investment as far as money, because it's right on the river. And I don't remember where else we looked, Doug. Where there's
Packwood.
Packwood.
Yeah, you looked in Packwood as well. So
Yeah.
The only location we didn't look physically was in Ashford, but I think the draw to Cle Elum was kind of the proximity to, I guess, other services aside from outdoor activities. It's a little bit more, you've got your Safeway and some just more items for somebody that's going to be up there for a weekend or during the week than just like Doug was mentioning Ashford, which really doesn't have much. So Cle Elum's a little bit more full service. And also, I would add, because I think you asked where or why we kind of chose this area. When we were up there looking, we had some conversations at a couple coffee shops and just some stores that we went into. And these are individuals that live up there full time. And talking to them, they said that Cle Elum was 4 seasons, in the sense that you can do something outside and they get guests and visitors 4 seasons, all year. So it's just not like there are shoulder seasons and whatnot, but we're hoping that, business is consistent all year round. So that was a push.
Okay.
Well.
Gotcha. So what I think I'm hearing you guys say is that Cle Elum is probably the most developed area of the different areas in this market.
Most certainly. Yeah. It's like Paul said, it has everything in terms of anything a guest would need within 5 minutes, 10 minutes of wherever your property is going to be. So the other areas have those things, with the exception of Ashford. Ashford doesn't really have much. And so you just need to prepare a guest to pick up their stuff before they get there. Otherwise, they're going to spend $10 for a Snickers bar at the gas station. Packwood has a grocery store. It has some amenities there. It has some restaurants. Ashford has restaurants, just no groceries. And then Cle Elum
as well.
Gold Bar is small and quaint, and usually about a 20-minute drive to get anything that you might need. So,
all right. And is there so you mentioned you guys have a 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom on the same property. And then Doug, you mentioned in that Suncadia resort, they can go up to like 7 bedrooms. Is there any size that does not work in this market? So, what I'm used to seeing is that the lower the occupancy, or sorry, that's going to be a confusing way to word that sentence. I'm going to change that. The smaller the property, so the less people that it sleeps, the higher the occupancy rate. Whereas the bigger ones have a lower occupancy rate, but will typically have a higher cash on cash return, which we don't have to get into all that right now because that's just so subjective based on the deal you're going to buy. But is there anything that you want to avoid? Like I know in some markets, it's like 1 and 2 bedrooms do great. 3 bedrooms don't really do much better than 2 bedrooms, but then 4 bedrooms do quite a bit better. So is there anything you want to avoid size wise, or does it all kind of work?
I would say it all kind of works. I would compare. So it's market specific though. So Cle Elum, I think you're going to do better with a larger property, with a property that can sleep a lot of people, because you're getting either multiple generations of families or different combinations of families kind of meeting in that place to recreate. And so if you can house 2 families or 3 families, your ADRs are going to be much better in that area in particular. In the other areas, 2 or 3 bedrooms is going to do it for you. Generally, those are more like just family getaways or couple getaways. So less. Cle Elum is centrally located in Washington State, so you get a lot of people meeting in Cle Elum that come from east and west to meet there and like have family gatherings, to have weddings, to have like that sort of thing. And so I would say Cle Elum, I would tend towards more bedrooms.
Okay.
I would tend towards mountain properties, and we can talk about that later, but and not like in the city, or make sure you're on the river or you have a view or you're in the resort. And
well, no, let's talk that now.
Okay.
Or I'll let you finish your point first. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah. So anyway, but main point is more bedrooms probably in Cle Elum, in the Cle Elum area, and then smaller properties in the 3 other areas.
Okay. And then Paul and Jenny, you guys just went for unique, right on the river. Like I would imagine something that's right on a river like that is probably going to stay rented really, really well because the river's right there.
Yeah. We did the first 3 months. We were at about 73% occupancy. That was July, most of July, August, September, and then now October is coming down. But we were up there doing some work on it. But yeah, it was the draw for us was pretty much the river. And I think some things that we really looked at was a view, whether it be on a river, or we looked at one property up in Gold Bar that was, like Jenny was saying, was a very large log cabin, which had views of the mountains. So some kind of draw for the guests to have, a relaxing setting. That was another one for us.
Okay, awesome. So back to the thing that I cut you off about, Doug. So the type of property. So you're saying you don't really want to be in town. You want to be out in the picturesque scenery. So let's hear about that a little bit.
Yeah. Any of these markets, people are wanting to get away generally from the urban center of Seattle and Tacoma. So they want to feel as if they're in the mountains. So, and I would also say they want, in general, a more upscale experience. They don't want the Smokies grandma cabin. They want a luxury or semi-luxury cabin that they can use as a nice place to come back to after they go and do whatever they're doing that day. So style doesn't really matter as much as having those things and that kind of coziness, that all the things, the amenities that somebody would want, the hot tub, the maybe a sauna, maybe a fully equipped kitchen, nice furnishings that are comfortable, a barbecue and a deck and a view. Like those are the types of properties that you want. So yeah, you don't want to buy. So downtown Cle Elum is a perfect example, or downtown Roslyn is a perfect example where you can rent in those locations, but people aren't going to Cle Elum to stay in town. They're going to Cle Elum to stay in a place that is nice and is somewhat secluded or has the luxury amenities that they want to access.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And that kind of segues into my next question is, what level do you have to go to be able to perform in this market, enemy method wise? So is everybody pretty luxury? I know we're talking about Cle Elum, but let's expand out to the entire market now. is everybody like really luxury and you've got to go in and make everything as updated as possible? Or can you get away with things being, a little dated, not like full on grandma, but, need some things like how heavy do we have to go on using blue chip market principles to apply here? Or do we have to apply blue chip market? Because you said this is an emerging market. So, if we own something in a blue chip market like a Scottsdale or a Smokies or a Destin, Florida, and we apply those principles of owning there where there's a ton of sophisticated competition into an emerging market, are we going to be head and shoulders above everyone? Or are we going to be just kind of on a level playing field?
I think in Packwood, Ashford, and Gold Bar, if you take those blue chip market ideals and apply them, you're going to be ahead of the competition. You're going to perform better than the competition. So a lot of the dwellings that exist in those places are like long time established family cabins that people have owned for generations and then are finally selling and becoming short-term rentals. And so most of the rental properties there they've just rented them and they've been, just kind of standard places. And so you can do all right with that. And then if you like take it up a notch in those locations, you're going to do very well. I would say Cleome is the outlier to that, where Suncadia, the resort, drives sort of the short-term rental market around there. And so you do have to, you have to step it up in that market in terms of furnishings, in terms of amenities, in terms of what your property has to offer in order to keep up and compete with what houses in Suncadia are offering. And I think Paul and Jenny could probably speak to that. They're just outside of Suncadia on the river, but they're places within 10 minutes of the resort. So
yeah, and like Doug was saying, I think in our area, just kind of looking at doing the enemy method, looking at other places around Cle Elum, Roslyn, there are a couple, I wouldn't say grandma cabins, but there are some that, more like glamping or something like that. But most places are offering, like posh furnishings. I haven't seen a lot except for in the Suncadia area with hot tubs and spas and whatnot. But everybody's, above the board and newer, fully furnished kitchens and very bright and clean.
Okay, gotcha. So while we're on the subject of this Suncadia place that sounds like a really fun place to go, are there any other short-term rental like resort style communities, or is that just the main one?
There's that one, and there's one other in Roslyn, which is called Roslyn Ridge. Doesn't have all of the resort things that Suncadia does, but is a short-term rental community itself. Kind of more of a recreational focus than a resort focus in Roslyn Ridge.
Okay. Well, let me back up. Are there many HOAs at all, or most properties outside of Suncadia and Roslyn Ridge going to be, not in an HOA, just out in the country, kind of?
It really depends. So there are, I would say, in every market, there are HOAs, and some are friendly and some are not. Paul and Jenny were actually under contract on a property on a lake in an HOA that said they allowed short-term rentals. And then when we got under contract, we figured out they weren't open to short-term rentals.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing. That's a good time to figure it out.
Yeah.
Not after closing.
Yeah. And, it was kind of one of these things of, well, the bylaws say that you can't, but everybody does. And so we had a long conversation about what that could mean for the future. And they decided to walk away from that property. But I would say there are HOAs. And then regulation wise, every one of the locations is governed by the county rather than the city regulations. And so county regulations tend to be more lax, more STR friendly, and less restrictive. So there are a couple of cities like city of Cle Elum, which I wouldn't recommend buying in anyway. You can have one there. You can't be within like 250 feet of another one, which is really kind of a strange thing. But each county has their own permitting business license requirements, but all are STR friendly. The HOAs are the only thing you really have to watch out for and just make sure you do due diligence there and talk to people on the board and make sure that it's not going to be an issue.
Okay. So are there any, obviously, and if you're buying in an HOA anywhere, you want to make sure that everything, that don't just take, the listing agent and the seller's word for it. Make sure that you're looking through all those docs yourself. Are there any county or city anti-short-term, or not anti-short-term rental restrictions, but what are the restrictions in these areas? So since you mentioned Cle Elum in town, is there anything else we need to be aware of? High level, guys, always don't just take our word for it on a podcast. If you're planning to buy in an area like this, make sure that you're calling, if you're inside the city limits, call the city, outside, call the county, just to be sure you're following the rules. But anyway, go ahead, Doug. Disclaimer there.
I would, every county is open. They just have their own processes and procedures permitting. So the counties themselves, with the exception of Chelan, which I'll talk about, but Chelan is the only county where there is restrictions. A lot of people ask me about a place called Leavenworth and buying in the town of Leavenworth, which is a Bavarian themed town just north of Cle Elum. And Leavenworth has a very strong tourism history and presence, and their Chamber of Commerce and their business community has really put the screws down on short-term rentals. To the point where they've pretty much restricted them out unless you're grandfathered in. And even then people will ask me, hey, can we buy a grandfathered in property? And I'm like, well, yeah, you can, but the trend doesn't look good in terms of what they're wanting to do with short-term rentals in the area. So I personally wouldn't invest there. But that really, Chelan County and Leavenworth is probably the only place I would say I would caution people against. Otherwise, all the counties themselves seem to be pretty open and non-restrictive.
Right. When we purchased, like Doug was saying, we kind of did a lot of research as well. And speaking to the folks at the county that we're in, very friendly. And there are a couple things, I can't think of anything specific. And there's nothing that's very glaring, but very friendly and easy to work with. And Kittitas County.
Just a note on the neighbors too. So our neighbors, we came from a perspective of we just really want neighborhood support because we're going to use the house sometimes also. And so we started off with what would you like to see in our rules? Like we counted both neighbors on each side and said, is there anything that what time would you like quiet time to be? We can't say we're going to do that, but we'd like to know what works for you. And so we've ended up getting two great neighbors, but our rules for our house are very neighbor friendly. We just ask for a lot of respect for our neighbors. And as a result, the community has really kind of embraced us, which has been really, really kind. They look out for us. They really take care of us. Like when you have a bad cleaner, they don't clean our house, but they've come over and watered for us and all kinds of stuff. So we definitely are the kind of people that want the community support also. So we have encouraged them and told them, we want you to be happy with having a short-term rental next door to you. How can we make this better? And we are lucky enough to have neighbors that are not super anal retentive. But I think, it can work. It depends on how you manage your property.
So did you have those conversations before you closed or after?
After.
Okay.
Yeah. But we did it afterwards. But they were very open to it. So.
Okay. That's good. I think it's very important to be very respectful of your neighbors when you're doing this. You want to make sure that they know that you are trying to be respectful of them. So I think that's absolutely the right thing to do if you've got neighbors. So, and that's super cool of them. Doug, did you have something?
Well, their property is pretty unique in that on the river, they can't put up fences within a certain setback from the river.
150 feet.
Yeah, which we discovered during due diligence period. But so like literally you can see both of the neighbors, and you can't really do anything about it. So just because that's the way their property is configured on the river. So most properties are going to have some sort of seclusion and privacy from the neighbors in all of these communities. And some are actually like designed to be short-term rental communities. So it's not a big a deal there, but it was for Paul and Jenny. So that was a very good way to go about that.
Yeah, we ended up putting boxwoods up on both of our properties, but we asked both the neighbors, what do you think about this? How do you think this looks? Is this easy for you to maintain on your side of the boxwood, on your side of the yard? And so it was, instead of building a fence, we built a bush hedge. Yeah. Things like that we want to work with our neighbors on.
Yeah, I think that's totally smart to make friends with them. So they want to help you and they're not angry at you.
Yeah. We don't want our guests, drunkenly walking over onto their property. So
yeah, we don't want that. Okay. So one thing that we haven't talked about is the type of property. So does the property have to be a cabin, or can it be more of a house style? Do we see condos here? What's the deal?
Mostly single family, almost exclusively single family. There are some townhomes and some condos in the Suncadia Resort. I have a tough time thinking that those will cash flow very well, based on the HOA fees. They're pretty significant. So I would say 95 to or above % of properties we're looking at single families. Property type, I don't think it's necessarily like you're going to have to be like dialed into a specific type, other than it needs to be comfortable, it needs to be clean, it needs to be cozy, and a place for people to come back to after they recreate all day. I guess like in Ashford and Packwood and Roslyn, I would go more towards cabin and less towards like Rambler in the with regular siding and painted blue. Gotcha. Or whatever. So cabins probably have a little bit more of appeal and would attract people better there. In Cle Elum, it's kind of upscale mountain is how I would describe it. So like chateau sort of, lots of rock and chateau style, I guess, chalet.
I'm glad you think we own a chateau.
What's that?
I said, I'm glad you think we own a chateau.
Yeah, I mean, the perfect example is, you have a chateau. Yeah,
I think people come up there also to see wildlife too.
Yeah.
And we have, deer are all over the place, and raccoons, and we even have beavers. So, the beavers steal the neighbors' trees off their lawns. So, it's really beautiful. I think that's another reason people come up there, is really just to be in nature.
Yeah. I want to go visit now. It sounds like an awesome place. I mean, you guys are going all the way from Hawaii.
We know a place you can stay
on the river. It sounds great to me.
Should do a motorhome road trip out to Washington State. That would be.
We've got a place to park.
To be honest with you, Luke tried to do that last year because we did our first one a few years ago. We were out for a month and it was awesome. And we went up to Jackson Hole and Bozeman and all through Montana. And he was like, okay, next year we're going to Mount Rainier and I'm going to run the Mount Rainier marathon and we're going to do all this stuff. And then I was like, Luke, that is going to take us a good month just to get there. And so he was on this whole jag about it for a good 2 weeks before I finally convinced him that was not probably the best idea with 2 toddlers, but it was on the list there for a minute. So maybe we'll just fly there.
Yeah, no, I drove to Tennessee and back with my oldest daughter.
That sounds hideous.
We did it. It was a graduation road trip, and she had a spectacular time. And
that's good.
But it took 5 full days of driving, like 8-hour days, to get to Pigeon Forge.
Yeah, so. Well, we're coming to the end of the time. So what else do you guys think our listeners need to hear about where or what to buy in this market?
I think I would summarize it as, and we'll probably segue to our next episode, but in Cle Elum, I would really focus on getting as many bedrooms and as many people that you can sleep as possible. And in the others, just a 2-3 bedroom cabin is going to be right in the sweet spot.
Yeah, I think I just from the reviews that we've gotten from guests on our place, I would just say the things that what they were looking for, not specifically for how many bedrooms or whatever, but it's views of the river and just relaxing, a relaxation space. That was everybody's been very specific about that.
And hot tub.
Yeah.
Big deal. Hot tub.
Got to have a hot tub. Any other amenities that we need to have to like be on par with everybody else?
They like fire pits, or fire tables, and water, pond, lake, stream, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say fire pit. It is often not very warm here, so being able to be outside but also stay warm, either on like with patio heaters or with fire tables or fire pits. All of those are important because generally it's cooler here than it is warm. So that would be an amenity there, and be able to grill your food.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, if you are ready to buy something with Doug in this market, you can email us at agents@theshorttermshop.com and we will hook you up with him. Or if you just want to learn more, ask some questions, there's a few ways you can do that. First one is to join our public Facebook group, same title as my book right behind me, Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth. Or every Thursday, we have a live Q&A call that you can sign up for at strquestions.com. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you on the next episode.